Welcome to the Practical Prompt. This is where we speak with business owners and learn how they're applying today's AI tools to everyday challenges. Hey Rafael, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Apurva. How are you?
I'm good. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. I'm Rafael. You can call me Rafa. I am the CEO of Chupacabra Game Studios. I've been working on the games industry for over 15 years, doing all sorts of different kinds of games. Everything from console and mobile to VR, PC, medical, educational. I'm originally from Mexico. My background is actually in robotic engineering, but I'm currently located in Vancouver, Canada. And I love it here working on all these different kinds of games.
Since you're a founder of your own studio and I was reading about it, and you made your own game as well, on which you worked a lot from the beginning till the very end. So can you go over the workflow of like how do you ideate, build it, and take it to market and the launching part?
That is such a big question. Okay, so let's begin by the idea that a game comes from an idea, right? Like everyone has different kinds of ideas. At the end of the day, a game is a collection of rules in which players interact with in order to give a certain experience. So normally we think of them as entertainment, but that doesn't have to be the case. You can have like medical games that are trying to modify behavior, or educational games that are trying to teach something. In this case, let's just simplify and say that we're trying to go for run-of-the-mill entertainment. Now, there are different kinds of game developers, and there's different avenues to do games. There's no like really one right way. A lot of people are just hobbyists, and they have something that they really want to speak of. There's something they really want to communicate to the wider world, and games in this case is the artistic medium in which they choose to do so. In my case, as you said, I'm founder of the studio. There is a business aspect to it, in which case it is not generally about communicating my own interior self, but also what will the market react to? What do we want to see out there? What players would like to see and what would sell? And it has to be a combination of both. As an indie studio, I have the big advantage that I don't have stakeholders other than myself. I don't have like employees that depend on my game for lifestyle, for living. So I'm able to take risks and work on projects that I'm passionate about, but still have this overlap with the market. So, go ahead. And I can go on for the full hour. So please feel free to interrupt.
Let's break it down.
Okay.
I was very interested in the evaluation piece. So how do you do user group studies, or like how do you test for people's satisfaction? And when does this stage happen? Is this before ideation, after ideation? When you do
throughout the project. And in this case, it really depends on what tool we use. It's based on what state of the project is in. So let us go back to the very beginning, when you just have an idea. How do you test an idea? Right? Like games are a risky business, and you want to be able to use the least amount of resources before deciding to move forward with a project or cut it off. So one of the ways that I like to use in order to test ideas is to do a market analysis of what games are out there. So when I have an idea that I think, oh, this is compelling, I start looking for games that have similar tags. So it could be similar genre, similar aesthetic, and this generally gives you a really big list of games. Like games come out all the time. There's always new games out there, but I am a very specific kind of developer, right? Like I am not a AAA developer. I'm not a hobbyist either. So when I have this list of similar games, the next step is to actually start crossing out the ones that are different from me. So if it's the fifth one in a sequel, or the fifth sequel in a series, I'm definitely not on the same level. So that is not competitive. On the other hand, if it's a game jam game that someone did in 72 hours, also not the same. Once I have similar games to the one I am thinking of making, I can start digging deeper into them and seeing estimates of how much they sold, what is the reaction of people as they're commenting, and see if my ability to spend resources on this project is equivalent to the expected outcome. Now, you mentioned user tests. So that would happen at a later stage, right? Once, let's say that there is the validation of the idea, we start working on it. Generally, what you ended up doing is having a small prototype or a small demo that you would put you would either show to conventions or like people that are near you, friends and family or other designers that you're in touch with, and get their feedback on it. This is not a proper user test per se, right? It's not as structured. Right now, what we're trying to do is just kind of get an inkling if people are excited about it, if they want to play more, if they want to learn more. And it's always tricky because with friends and family, they want to be kind. And at this stage, you don't want people to be kind. You want people to be truthful. So one of the things I like to do is to put them anonymously on a smaller marketplace like itch.io, in which case it is just similar to the other games that are out there. It's competing in this small marketplace, and you get a sense of how it would do. The more you develop, the more you say, okay, yes, it has passed this gate, the more formal these structures occur, right? So once you've said, okay, yes, this small prototype has been validated, let's do a vertical slice. So a vertical slice is a sliver of a game that has up to final quality, but it's not the full game, right? If you think of levels, it would be like one level. You don't want to spend doing everything. You just want one, but you want it to be close to final quality so you can show it to people that are not like you and that are not your friends, and that you can actually start having people that are not game developers, that they're not necessarily in the know of what a game looks like before it's released. Because let me tell you, they're very different. Like they're a bunch of cubes, and that sometimes distracts players. So if you have it as close to like final quality, then they can focus on the game itself, and you can start doing user tests with that, and so on and so forth. Then there's alpha tests, beta tests, soft launches. All these are different gates that you go in which the resources spent increase, the formality of the test increases as well, but it allows you to de-risk the process.
Once you have your game out there, how do you get the user feedback? Do you track all the movements and do data analysis on that? Like, is it within the game interactivity, or do people come and give you feedback outside of it? Do you look at the reviews and stuff?
Both. As a small scale company, even though I do have some analytics and some telemetry, I do not have the same capabilities in larger companies, right? If you look at large mobile game studios, they have whole teams, and their telemetry it's beautiful. It's a thing to be in awe of. They will know when what size of a button is more likely to get a click, right? They can predict when people are about to just stop playing. I don't do that. I'm just a single person. I have like the very high level KPIs, like how many people are playing, when do they stop, that kind of thing. There's a flow for the tutorial for the first time user experience, so I know when most people are likely to jump out. But on top of that, I do look through the comments people get. And comments are a bit tricky because you generally get people that are the most passionate, for good or for ill, but it's not necessarily all players. Right? And so you always have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. On the one hand, it is good that there's people that are passionate about your game, even if they're angry. Even an angry comment means that someone was like so upset that it caused such a ruckus internally that they need to let it out. And that's better than just apathy, right? But most players will not. On top of that, I also have a small Discord channel with people that have been following the progress of the development, and they're also a source of feedback, especially when there's like an update or something where it's not public yet, but it's about to be. It's a good way to expose it to other people, other players, and see what their thoughts are.
Do you share it on social media as well, the development stages, like you share it on Discord?
I did, but I stopped doing that. I found that it did not get as much traction as I wanted, and it was a lot of work. Creating copy, making sure the GIFs were well formatted, that you had good images. At the end of the day, as a small studio, you really have to pick your battles. And there's some things that you have to develop more put more effort into. And social media, specifically Twitter, specifically Facebook, this just did not give me the bang for my buck.
Yeah, the other question is where would you find the right audience to, right? You are looking for potential users slash customers, and where would they be hanging out?
That is also an interesting topic. I can dig into it if you'd like.
Yeah, let's dig into it. Because my question, the follow up question was before you start building a game or like ideating about a game, like, do you think about which users is this game for, right? And then you must be doing some sort of research about the users and like trying to find them and talk to them. So yeah, let's dive into that.
No, like knowing your target audience is fundamental. Like I know a lot of people think of games as like the gamers. And there's just like a group of them. But at this point, everyone plays different kinds of games, and they're very different, and they're equally valid. From like people that like puzzle match 3 games to people that are really like hardcore into shooters. Everyone is looking for a slightly different experience when playing a game, and so being able to understand what their motivations are, what their expectations are, and what their like skill level is really critical to be able to make a game that is for them. I think that the best way to do this research is to look at the marketplace itself. So if you go into Steam, for example, or itch.io, or any other marketplace where you can get digital distribution of games, people leave comments, and you can see what other games these people are playing. And then this allows you to dig deeper and say, okay, there is like this subsection of the audience that really likes this theme, but wants it to have deeper mechanics, for example. Or that they love these kinds of mechanics, but they feel that it's a bit too hard because they have lower play session length. It is always a bit tricky, as we don't have access to full data. Back in the day when I started working, for example, on games on social media, on Facebook, and when I started out on mobile games, there was a lot of data that Facebook would give you about the users, and you would be able to really track down what your user was, what brands they liked, what kind of other media outside of games did they enjoy, and that was a lot of insight. We do not have those capabilities anymore due to privacy concerns, so now we make do with other methods.
Interesting. And I wanted to focus a bit on the business model in the gaming industry. I don't know much about it, but I remember there was I don't know, it still must be happening. Piracy was a big deal, right? I remember people used to download games through torrent and and not pay for it at all. So how is that?
Piracy is actually less of an issue now than it was back in the day. At the end of the day, what happened was that digital distribution became more... It gave a lot more benefits to players than just straight out of a torrent. If you download, for example, a torrent, or if you get it through some other means, the marketplaces will lock you out. So you will not be able to play multiplayer. You will not be able to get patches and bug fixes. And so piracy was a lot of bigger issue when we had physical distribution of media, where everything was just based on DVDs or CDs, and then it was just like a fire and forget business model. You sell once that sale is lost, it's gone. Now we're seeing that it's a very different model, where digital distribution allows you to continuously update a game to the point where we are really talking about live games. Games that have been going on for 20, 30 years with still continuous updates, a continuous community. And if you pirate a game, you're locked out of that.
Users are being incentivized to pay to use the game, which is good.
Yeah. So I come from Mexico. And when I was growing up, piracy was rampant. Like, it probably still is. But we would have, like malls that were just a piracy mall. And even though it was illegal, you would see police shopping there. It was just like very common thing. La Fayuca, we would call it. And what really always struck me was that the service they gave was really good. So not just the price, but if you didn't like a game, you could just exchange it. no questions asked. If you had an issue, they would like help you with tech support. There was all these different things that they would provide as a service. And at the time as well, to be frank, Mexico was not considered a core territory for game sales, so we didn't get a lot of original games or like premium games. But the service they provided was a really big draw. And once digital distribution platforms started giving a better service, people migrated.
Makes sense. And you mentioned earlier about games meant for purely entertainment and games meant for healthcare, other business problems. Can you explain a bit more about that and any other projects you have worked on? I know that you've worked on projects in the healthcare space as well.
So, taking a step back, like in just philosophy of games, the idea of play, why people play, why animals play, is in the end to learn. If you look at a couple puppies just playing chase, they are learning the skills that they will use as animals. And so games are a way to formalize play and formalize learning, and that becomes very powerful. So this allows you to teach not just the rules of the game, but it allows you to help help patients that with diabetes understand when to use insulin. One of the projects I worked on, for example, it was a small prototype. It never actually launched commercially, but we did work together with a university here in Canada to create a platform in which patients with dementia could get in touch with their families. Because research had shown that it originally started as a game, as a series of games as mental exercises, but when we got in touch with UBC and their head of research of dementia studies told us, well, right now the only thing that we know for sure that helps the decline of dementia is their mood. They were having much more success with having retreats where they would have drum circles and have like a good time, as opposed to like do 5 pages of Sudoku. And so we pivoted, and instead of making brain training games, we ended up creating this platform where the family members could get in touch with their elders, share stories, and we used gamification in order to make that more engaging and more compelling on both sides. And this is just one of the things we can do, right? Like, we can use game theory to encourage all sorts of behaviors. From, the point system you use to get airline miles to something more serious.
Yeah, gamify everything.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, it's happening with stock investments. All the apps which provide you with the capability to buy stocks and sell stocks. They do that a lot now.
Stocks in of themselves are similar to games in certain ways, right?
Yeah.
They have an unknown outcome, but it is still a skill that you can improve on. It has like really quick feedback. There's a lot of things that makes it very closely related.
Yeah, true. I wanted to explore a bit of virtual reality. You have worked a lot in that space too. Can you go over that a bit?
Of course. Well, virtual reality is one of the new platforms that we have in gaming, one of the new verticals. It is similar to games, to like traditional flat screen games, in the sense that you're still interacting with the world. But the idea that you are placed within the world does change a lot how players behave. There's a lot of both bonuses, like things that we can do in VR that are not usual for flat screen games, especially in the sense of presence. People behave differently when they feel they are present in an environment, but there's also limitations. For example, people getting tired. It's not something that you think of when sitting on a couch with a controller, but when you have to start moving your hands, for 20 minutes and 30, people get tired. Your eyesight gets tired. Standing gets tiring, and so it really changes our way of thinking about how to design games, as we're facing limitations that we're usually not used to do.
Are you limited by the hardware there?
I mean, we're always limited to hardware in video games. There's a lot of things that we would love to do, but we're always constrained by the technology of the day. Right now, VR, because it's rendering two screens, because it has to render really fast to avoid nausea. It is a couple of generations behind really powerful mobile phones. But at any point in history, we would always be limited by this.
Makes sense. And let's go on to AI now. So how has AI changed the gaming industry, or how is it changing it right now?
There's many ways in which it is changing it. As a technology-based industry, we are really keen to get new technology, and we adapt to new technology really fast. That said, it also has caused a lot of disruptions. So while we are using AI in terms of accelerating parts of our business model, being able to create concept art faster, being able to create code faster, this has also caused issues with people that used to do those jobs. And it is part of an internal debate that is currently occurring in the industry of how far can we go in one direction or the other. Different studios, different people have different positions on it. And it is a bit of a gray line where the certain audiences as well care a lot of things being made by humans and not AI. Other audiences do not care.
It's very similar to the film industry. And what do you think? Do you know about Genie? It was released. It's a world model released by Google, and it lets you. What do you think about that?
I think it's really interesting. The idea of being able to render world models, being able to render worlds live. I think that it has a lot of potential in being able to create like large open space experiences. Now, not every game is like that as well, right? We have to remember that different games for different people. So it probably will not, like world models probably will not help with people that are interested in tile games and match threes. But for players that really want to have that ability to just continuously explore, I think it'll be very interesting for them. Now, one of the things that we should also bear in mind is that that AI in the end is a tool to create games. It's not the game in of itself. So it is not just like, hey, Genie, make me a game. It's how will game designers use the Genie technology to create a game?
What tools do you guys use in your day-to-day? And with
AI tools?
Yeah. No, what tools in general you use for development and like designing? Plus, like which ones of them have like AI features integrated and AI tools as well?
Nowadays, everything has AI features integrated. So, as a game designer, which is like my primary craft, I always use the game engines, which is the program in which you coalesce the art, the code, the design, the narrative. It's the thing that brings everything together to create a game. Like the big cauldron where you put everything in. That said, I also use for a lot of spreadsheets and documentation. Because game design is a craft of creating systems, and those systems are many times represented mathematically. So you need to be able to create difficulty curves. You may be able to create stats for different characters. And spreadsheets is something that I'm also really interested in, the AI features it uses. Less for the design itself, but more for the data tracking and analysis. And we were talking about that earlier, right? Where like as a single developer, give me a bunch of data and I just cannot handle it. But if I can use the AI features on Excel to say, hey, summarize me this data, or like given this data, what can you answer about this question? It saves a lot of time.
Yeah, as a single person, you're able to do more stuff now thanks to AI, and in different ways as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's multiple ways you can use AI at all parts of production, from being able to communicate properly. I have no artistic skills. I cannot draw. Everything I draw looks like a chicken nugget. So having a Midjourney or ChatGPT saying, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking of," and I have like just this really rough sketch on Paint. It's like, can you make a screen that looks like this? And then I can hand that over to the rest of the team or to an outsourcer and say, so this is what I'm thinking. And it just gives them a better understanding than my really crude drawing would. from that to actually helping with balancing, helping with testing. AI in testing is actually really important as well. It really can. It really does affect all different parts of the game industry.
And what I've heard is, and also noticed, is prompting an image model or a video model is really hard compared to a text model. So how did you go about that? Was that a learning experience?
I mean, everything in AI right now is a learning experience, especially because it changes every 2 months. Uh, but for example, I have not actually used video AI a lot. I haven't had the need. Nothing that I don't think it's terrible or anything like that. It hasn't crossed my path. For the image generation AI that I've used, I have used it mostly at that more superficial level, where I'm not really trying to create an asset that's going to be presented to a player. I still want an artist to go in and make that vision true. What it helps is just helps explain the vision to said artist. For example, it is very useful for creating mood boards, where you say, okay, this is a kind of images that I'm thinking, and this is a kind of art style. These are kind of different settings that I have. Just create a mood board for me, and it'll just be able to do that. There is one exception of a project where I tried something different with image generation. So me and a group of students at the Center for Digital Media, which is a university here in British Columbia, we worked on a project called unfiltered, where we were trying to develop what I call AI native games, which are not a game where AI is part of the production, but a game where generative AI is core to the game experience. So in this game, you would have a deck of cards with different kinds of animals, and you would imagine Pokemon. You would have these animals fight each other, but the difference is that you could actually merge two different animals together to get a different kind of animal. So you could say, I want to merge my hippopotamus with my octopus, and then you would get like an octopotamus. And the image generation would actually respond to that. And so this is something that can only be done with AI, because the number of possibilities that, in even a small deck, you could create, it is too much for any team to be able to do consistently. And we made a prototype. Some things worked well, some things did not work well. Controlling the AI is particularly hard. But this is where I think that the space for AI in games is most interesting. Less about how it affects current disciplines, but the kind of play experiences that it enables.
Yeah, I was going to ask you just that, like using AI within the game. So it's cool to see it's already happening. So what do you think the future of gaming industry would be like with AI?
So hard. There's so many things that can happen. I wouldn't be able to venture like a guaranteed guess, but I do see some trends that I feel are prone to increase. And if they increase in parallel, if one of them tips over, I do not know. But one of the trends that I think is really important is the rise of user-generated content, or UGC, where it's not just game developers creating games or game elements, but players themselves. We're already seeing this with Fortnite, we're seeing this with Roblox, but this will be multiplied dramatically with agentic AI, where a player that has an idea but does not have experience can say, hey, I need this kind of game. Can you make the art for it? Can you make the levels for it? Can you make the code for it? And players generally have more time. They can really dig into using all these agents and coordinating them to create this vision. We've had similar moments in history. In the 90s, there was an explosion of Flash games where people at the time were given tools to make games through Adobe's Flash that was very simple to use. And at the time, games were very complex. You had very complex game engines. And we saw an explosion of creativity, creating new genres and new kinds of games that to this day still exist. And it happened because of that explosion. I feel that AI is going to cause another explosion of creativity where new players, people that have ideas coming outside of the industry, will have the tools in order to bring these to life. And it will create new things for us to explore. Another trend is I see also the increase in potential of middle studios, so medium-sized studios, where large studios, that have thousands of employees, already probably have all the tools they need to make the kinds of games they want. Medium studios have always had the ambition, and they probably have the skill. These are generally people that are very experienced in the game, but the games industry, but you would still need to have the resources. And I believe AI can bridge that gap, where people that have experience making games, that understand the development process, can use AI to be more ambitious. And I wouldn't be surprised if the line between the highest level AAA studios and the medium tier AA studios starts blurring more and more.
That's interesting. That is what is happening in the software industry as well, sort of like non-technical people are able to create apps because there are so many tools existing in the middle which are helping you do that. So this was really useful, Rafael. Do you have any recommendation for games that people should explore or play?
Oh my gosh, so many. I need to kind of filter it down. Who normally is the people that like to watch your show? How would you describe them?
Business owners, small to medium-sized business owners.
Okay, so they're interested like in efficiency and trying to. What would you say is their main interests?
Growth, AI, efficiency, and technology.
Okay. So there is a genre of game which is I think they might find interesting, which is called automation games. In these games, you're basically trying to make a factory where you have a whole bunch of resources and you're trying to build as many rockets as you can or as much fuel you can. By setting conveyor belts and really optimizing the resources you have available. Games like Factorio, for example, would be something that your audience might enjoy. In terms of AI, there's not a lot of like really big games that use AI, but there are starting to be these experiments, and some of those experiments I find really compelling. One of the ones that I wanna recommend, and give me here just a moment to double check that I have the name right. Yeah, okay. It's called Suck Up.
Okay.
So in this game, you are a vampire trying to convince people to let you into your home so you can eat them. But the way you do this is by putting on a hat and pretending to be someone else. And all the conversations are AI. So you put on a police hat, officer hat, and you go knock someone's doors like, "Hey, I'm the police. I'm here. I want to enter your house." And they will start having conversations. And it is your role to convince the AI that they should let you in.
Wow. You actually learn how to negotiate here.
Yes, you do. And this is, again, something that is AI native. You cannot do this without AI.
I will check it out. This sounds very interesting. Is there a way people can connect with you?
Yeah, look, I'm always open to chatting about this kind of stuff. I love talking to people. You can always get in touch with me via LinkedIn or via my email, which I think is somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'll link those in the description. This was really useful, Rafael. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it was my pleasure. I loved it. Anytime.